Imagine stepping onto an aircraft so luxurious it no longer feels like a plane. Inside, there are private lounges, dining areas, bedrooms, offices, and interiors designed with the same attention to detail you would expect inside a luxury mansion or a superyacht. For most people, flying is simply a way to reach a destination. But for billionaires, royal families, executives, and world leaders, the journey itself can become the ultimate luxury. Today on Unbox the World, we are counting down 5 of the most extraordinary private aircraft in the world. Some are sleek, ultra-long-range business jets. Others are commercial aircraft transformed into private residences in the sky. And as we move from number 5 to number 1, each aircraft becomes larger, more spacious, and more unbelievable. These are the flying mansions that redefine what it means to travel above the clouds. Let's begin. Number 5, Gulfstream G700, the flagship of modern business aviation. We begin with one of the most advanced, purpose-built business jets in the world, the Gulfstream G700. At first glance, the G700 looks sleek, elegant, and understated. It does not need to appear outrageous. It does not need to shout for attention. Its luxury is quieter than that. A long, smooth fuselage, powerful Rolls-Royce Pearl 700 engines, a clean Gulfstream profile, and the kind of presence that tells you immediately this aircraft was built for people who value privacy, performance, and control. But the real story begins when the door opens, because stepping inside the Gulfstream G700 does not feel like entering a normal business jet. It feels like stepping into a private apartment designed to cross oceans. Gulfstream calls the G700 its industry flagship, and the numbers explain why. The aircraft has a maximum range of 7,750 nautical miles. It can reach a maximum operating speed of Mach 0.935. It can cruise as high as 51,000 feet, and inside, owners can configure up to 5 living areas. That last detail is what makes the G700 feel so special. Most private jets give passengers one main cabin, a few seats, a table, maybe a divan, maybe a small sleeping area. But the G700 can be arranged almost like a compact luxury home. One section can become a club lounge, another can become a dining space, another can become a conference area, another can serve as an entertainment zone, and at the rear, the cabin can include a grand suite depending on configuration. This is where the G700 begins to blur the line between private jet and flying residence. The cabin is designed to feel calm from the first moment passengers step on board. Soft lighting, handcrafted finishes, elegant seats that can convert into ergonomic beds, carefully integrated controls, and an interior layout that gives passengers enough space to work, rest, dine, and sleep during ultra-long-range flights. But one of the most important features is the light. The G700 features 20 Gulfstream panoramic oval windows, described by Gulfstream as the largest in business aviation. This matters more than people might expect. Natural light changes the feeling of a cabin. Instead of feeling enclosed inside a narrow tube, passengers feel connected to the sky outside. During sunrise, the cabin fills with soft gold. At night, the windows frame the darkness and stars. And during a long ocean crossing, the clouds themselves become part of the design. Inside the main lounge, passengers might sit in handcrafted leather seats arranged for conversation. A polished table could turn the area into a place for working or dining. Screens can be hidden into the cabin until needed. Lighting can be adjusted depending on the mood. And because the aircraft is so quiet, the entire environment feels removed from the stress of ordinary travel. That quietness is not accidental. Gulfstream designed the G700 cabin around wellness and comfort. The aircraft uses 100% fresh, plasma-ionized air, replenished every 2 to 3 minutes. It also offers one of the most comfortable cabin altitude experiences in private aviation. At 41,000 feet, The G700 can maintain a cabin altitude of about 2,840 feet. That may sound technical, but for passengers spending 10 or 12 hours on board, it matters enormously. Lower cabin altitude can reduce fatigue. Fresh air can make the cabin feel less dry. A quieter environment can reduce stress. And together, these invisible details can make the passenger arrive feeling far better than they would after a normal long flight. This is one of the biggest secrets of ultra-luxury aviation. The most important luxury is not always visible. It is not always the leather. It is not always the wood. It is not always the expensive finish. Sometimes luxury is simply arriving with energy. Arriving without exhaustion. Arriving ready. For a billionaire, a CEO, or a world leader, that can be more valuable than any decoration inside the cabin. Imagine taking off from New York in the evening. Dinner is served shortly after departure. You work for a few hours using high-speed Jet Connect's Ka-band Wi-Fi. Then the seat converts into a bed. The cabin lights dim. The air stays fresh. The aircraft climbs above weather. And while most travelers are fighting jet lag in crowded terminals, you wake up over Europe in your own private space. That is the power of the Gulfstream G700. It is not the largest aircraft on this list. It is not the most visually dramatic, but it represents the absolute top level of purpose-built business aviation. Fast, quiet, flexible, long range, and designed around the passenger's time and energy. The G700 proves that a private jet does not need to be enormous to feel extraordinary. But at number 4, we move to another ultra-long-range masterpiece. One that brings 4 true living spaces into a purpose-built business jet and turns long-distance flying into something closer to living above the clouds. Number 4, Bombardier Global 7500. The long-range luxury masterpiece. At number 4, we step inside the Bombardier Global 7500. If the Gulfstream G700 feels like a refined private apartment in the sky, the Global 7500 feels like a long-range residence designed for people who live between continents. This aircraft was built for travelers who do not think in short flights. They think in global routes. They think in time zones. They think in non-stop missions that begin on one side of the world and end on the other. The Global 7500 has a range of around 7,700 nautical miles, making it one of the most capable ultra-long-range business jets ever created. That means city pairs like New York to Hong Kong, Singapore to San Francisco, or Los Angeles to Sydney become possible without stopping. For most people, that sounds convenient. For the ultra-wealthy, it means something even more important: control. Control over time, control over privacy, control over schedule, control over who enters their environment. Because every fuel stop adds uncertainty. Every airport creates exposure. Every delay costs time. And for people whose time is measured in millions of dollars, avoiding disruption is one of the greatest luxuries of all. But what makes the Global 7500 truly special is not only its range, it is the cabin. Bombardier designed the Global 7500 with 4 true living spaces, which is a rare achievement in a purpose-built business jet. That allows the aircraft to support different parts of life during a single flight. A space to work, a space to dine, a space to relax, and a space to sleep. On a short flight, that may not sound necessary, but on a flight that lasts 12, 13, or even 14 hours, those separate spaces change everything. The journey begins in the forward cabin, often configured as a club suite. This is where passengers settle in after boarding. The seats are elegant, the lighting is calm, and the cabin immediately feels private. Bombardier's famous nuage seat is one of the aircraft's signature features. It is not just a large chair. It was designed specifically for long-range flight, with deep recline, body support, and a feeling closer to high-end furniture than conventional aircraft seating. That matters because on a private jet, A seat is more than a seat. It is where passengers talk, work, eat, read, rest, and sometimes sleep. A poor seat becomes uncomfortable after 2 hours. A great seat disappears into the experience. That is exactly what Bombardier tries to achieve. Move deeper into the cabin, and the Global 7500 can include a conference suite. This area can serve as a private meeting room or a dining space. Imagine 6 people seated around a polished table, reviewing documents or discussing strategy while the aircraft crosses the Atlantic. Outside, there is only sky. Inside, there is a quiet, secure, private space where business can continue uninterrupted. This is where aircraft like the Global 7500 become more than luxury objects. They become tools. Tools for business, tools for privacy, tools for protecting time. The aircraft can also include a full-size kitchen, allowing better meal service than many smaller business jets can provide. Long-range flying is not just about sitting for many hours. It is about preserving a normal rhythm of life. Dinner after takeoff, work after dinner, a movie or quiet conversation, sleep in the rear suite, breakfast before landing. The Global 7500 makes that rhythm possible. Farther back, passengers may enter an entertainment suite. This is where the mood becomes more relaxed. A sofa, screen, storage, soft lighting, and quiet surroundings can create a space for watching films, reading, or simply unwinding. For long flights, emotional comfort matters. A passenger cannot spend 12 hours in business mode. They need space to disconnect. They need a place where the aircraft feels less like an office and more like a home. Then comes the private suite. This is one of the most important areas of the Global 7500. Depending on configuration, the rear of the aircraft can include a permanent bed and even an optional shower. For a business jet, that is remarkable, because proper sleep is one of the hardest problems in aviation. Commercial passengers often struggle upright. Business class passengers may lie flat, but still share a cabin with many others. But inside a Global 7500, the owner can retreat into a private space, close the door, and rest in an environment designed around them. Imagine taking off at night from Los Angeles. After dinner, the cabin lights shift to a warmer tone. The aircraft climbs above weather. You walk into a private suite. The cabin is quiet. The windows are dark. The world below disappears. And while the aircraft continues across the Pacific, you sleep. Hours later, you wake up near another continent. That is the luxury of the Global 7500. It does not simply make travel more comfortable. It makes extreme distance feel manageable. Bombardier also designed the aircraft with large windows, a smooth wing, and a cabin that feels bright and refined. The overall experience is elegant rather than excessive. It does not need to look like a palace. It does not need to overwhelm passengers with decoration. Its luxury comes from flow, from comfort, from separation, from the ability to live normally while flying farther than most private jets can travel. The Global 7500 is not as wide as the aircraft later in this list. It does not have the cabin volume of an Airbus corporate jet or a Boeing Business Jet, but within the world of purpose-built business aircraft, it remains one of the most complete experiences ever created. A long-range private residence, a flying office, a place to rest, a tool for moving through the world without interruption. And that is why it earns its place at number 4. But now the countdown changes, because at number 3, we leave the world of traditional business jets and enter the world of bizliners. Aircraft born from commercial aviation, then transformed into private homes in the sky. And once that happens, luxury begins to expand dramatically. Number 3, Boeing Business Jet 737 MAX 8. When an airliner becomes a private home. At number 3, we step inside the Boeing Business Jet 737 MAX 8. This is where private aviation begins to feel completely different. Unlike the Gulfstream G700 or Bombardier Global 7500, the BBJ 737 MAX 8 is based on a commercial aircraft platform. In airline service, a 737 MAX 8 is designed to carry rows of passengers on scheduled routes around the world. Narrow seats, overhead bins, crowded aisles, a familiar commercial flying experience. But in Boeing Business Jet form, the aircraft is transformed. The airline layout disappears, the rows of seats disappear, the commercial feeling disappears, and what remains is a private residence built inside an aircraft that was originally designed to carry far more people. That is why the BBJ 737 MAX 8 feels so powerful. It takes the footprint of an airliner and gives it to a small group of passengers. Boeing says the BBJ 737 MAX family offers around 3 times the cabin space of a typical private jet. It can fly up to 6,600 nautical miles non-stop. It can carry 19 or more passengers, depending on the configuration, and it can include multiple lounges, private rooms, staterooms, VIP lavatories, and walk-by aisles. That phrase, walk-by aisles, may sound simple, but inside an aircraft, it matters. It means people can move naturally. They are not constantly squeezing around furniture. They are not trapped in one narrow cabin. The aircraft begins to feel open, more like a private apartment, less like a tube with wings. Step inside a BBJ 737 MAX 8, and the first impression is scale. The cabin is wider than a traditional business jet. The ceiling feels more generous. There is enough room for real walls, real furniture, and clearly separated spaces. Near the entrance, the aircraft can open into a reception area or forward lounge. This might include sofas, club seating, custom carpeting, polished tables, and wall panels finished in wood, leather, or soft fabric. The space can be designed to feel welcoming, like the entryway of a private residence. And because each BBJ interior is created around the owner, no 2 aircraft need to look the same. One owner might create a warm family aircraft with soft colors, relaxed seating, and entertainment areas. Another might design a serious executive aircraft with darker woods, formal meeting spaces, secure communications, and a more powerful tone. Another might choose an interior inspired by superyachts with curved walls, hidden lighting, glossy finishes, and highly customized furniture. That is the advantage of a Boeing business jet. It is not just an aircraft, it is a canvas. Further inside, the aircraft can include a dining or conference area. This is where the BBJ 737 MAX 8 becomes especially useful. In a smaller private jet, a meeting table exists, but space is limited. In a BBJ, a real conference area can be built. Passengers can sit comfortably across from one another. Screens can be integrated into the cabin. Documents can be reviewed. Meals can be served. And business can continue while the aircraft crosses continents. For CEOs, government officials, families, and high-profile travelers, that kind of space is extremely valuable. The aircraft can also include private staterooms. A rear suite might offer a bed, storage, entertainment system, and private lavatory. Some layouts may include additional seating areas or spaces for guests and staff. This allows passengers to rest properly on long flights. And because the BBJ 737 MAX has serious range, rest becomes important. A passenger could board in London, fly to the Middle East, Africa, or parts of North America, and spend the journey inside a cabin designed entirely around privacy. The technology supports that comfort. Boeing highlights a low cabin altitude system that reduces cabin altitude to around 6,500 feet at the aircraft's maximum cruise altitude. The BBJ 737 MAX also features windows that are about 20% larger than earlier comparable designs, bringing more natural light into the cabin. And because the MAX family uses modern engines and aerodynamic improvements, the aircraft offers better efficiency compared with older generation platforms. But one of the most practical features is the integrated air stair. The BBJ 737 MAX can include deployable air stairs that allow passengers to board without external stair equipment. That may sound small, but for private aviation, it represents independence. The aircraft can operate with greater flexibility at remote airports. It does not depend as heavily on airport equipment. And for owners who value control, that matters. The BBJ 737 MAX 8 is the bridge between traditional private jets and full flying mansions. It is not as enormous as the wide-body aircraft that come next, but it offers something very powerful. The footprint of a commercial aircraft, the privacy of a personal jet, and the flexibility of a custom-built residence in the sky. It proves that luxury aviation is not only about speed, it is about space. And once private aviation gains this much space, the entire experience changes. But at number 2, Airbus answers with its own single-aisle corporate jet. A wider cabin, a European design philosophy, and an aircraft that feels less like a private jet and more like a modern apartment floating above the clouds. Number 2, Airbus ACJ320neo. European sophistication in the sky. At number 2, we step inside the Airbus ACJ320neo, and immediately the tone changes. Where Boeing business jets often feel powerful and executive, Airbus corporate jets brings a different kind of luxury, a more European philosophy, cleaner lines, a stronger focus on cabin width, a sense of quiet sophistication instead of loud excess. The ACJ320neo is based on the Airbus A320neo family, one of the most successful commercial aircraft families in the world. In airline service, an A320neo carries rows of passengers on short and medium-haul routes. But in Airbus corporate jet form, everything changes. The rows disappear, the airline cabin disappears, the commercial feeling disappears. And what remains is a private flying residence with enough space and range to completely transform the experience of travel. Airbus lists the ACJ320neo with up to 96 square meters of floor space and up to 15 hours of nonstop flying. The aircraft also has a maximum range of around 6,000 nautical miles. That combination makes it very interesting. It is not the largest aircraft on this list, but it offers a rare mix of practicality, range, and comfort. Large enough to feel like a true private apartment, efficient enough to remain usable, and flexible enough to support many types of private missions. Step inside and the first thing passengers would notice is the width. The cabin feels broader than a traditional business jet. That extra width changes everything. Instead of feeling like passengers are sitting in a narrow tube, the ACJ320neo can feel like a real room. There is enough space for larger seating arrangements, enough room for a proper aisle, enough cabin volume for separate zones, and enough design flexibility for owners to create an interior that reflects their life on the ground. Near the entrance, the aircraft may open into a forward lounge. This is the first impression, the welcome area, the moment when passengers understand they are no longer inside a normal aircraft. Soft lighting can wash across the walls. Handcrafted side panels can hide technical systems. Large sofas or club seats can be arranged for conversation. Tables can be built into the cabin with polished surfaces and custom finishes. The entire space can feel calm, warm, and private. This matters because private aviation is not only about moving quickly, it is about changing the emotional experience of travel. Most commercial passengers step on board and immediately feel pressure. People behind them, bags above them, seat numbers, cabin noise. But inside an ACJ320neo, the passenger enters a space designed around them. The aircraft is quiet, the lighting is controlled, the furniture is chosen for comfort, and there is no need to share the environment with strangers. Move deeper into the cabin, and the ACJ320neo can be configured with a dining or conference area. This is one of the most useful spaces on board. During one flight, it might function as a business room, a place where executives review presentations, discuss strategy, or prepare for important meetings. On another flight, the same area might become a private dining room, a table set with proper dishes, a meal served by cabin staff, conversation flowing while the aircraft crosses countries, oceans, or entire regions. This flexibility is one of the reasons aircraft like the ACJ320neo are so valuable. They do not force one use, they adapt. The cabin can be a living room in the morning, a meeting room in the afternoon, a dining room in the evening, and a sleeping environment overnight. Further toward the rear, owners can create private rooms. This may include a bedroom suite, storage areas, a private bathroom, and additional seating for family or guests. In a smaller jet, a sleeping area often means a seat or sofa converted into a bed. But in an aircraft with the cabin volume of the ACJ320neo, designers can create something far more residential. A bed can be placed inside a private section. Lighting can be adjusted for rest. Wall panels can soften sound. Storage can be integrated into the cabin, and the owner can close the door and separate themselves from the rest of the aircraft. That is the real value of space. It creates privacy inside a private aircraft. Airbus also emphasizes smart cabin control. Lighting, temperature, entertainment, and cabin functions can be managed at the passenger's fingertips. Screens can be hidden until needed. Audio systems can be integrated discreetly. The cabin does not need to look crowded with technology. Instead, technology disappears into the design. This is where the ACJ320neo shows its character. It does not have to overwhelm passengers with visual excess. Its luxury can come from proportion, silence, materials, and restraint. A beautiful ACJ320neo interior might use pale woods, cream leather, soft carpets, brushed metal, and warm, indirect lighting. Another might use darker tones, polished stone, and a more formal, executive style. Some owners may want an interior inspired by superyachts. Others may want something closer to a modern, European apartment. The aircraft does not dictate the style, it provides the canvas. Airbus also highlights comfort features such as up to 20% relative humidity, hospital-grade filtration, and a very quiet cabin environment. Again, these details may not look dramatic in a thumbnail, but during a long flight, they matter. Better humidity can make the cabin feel less dry. Better filtration can make the air feel fresher. A quieter cabin can reduce stress, and all of this helps the passenger arrive feeling better. The ACJ320neo is not the biggest aircraft in this countdown, but it may be one of the most balanced. It has serious range. It has generous cabin width. It has elegant design potential, and it brings a residential feeling to a single-aisle corporate jet. This aircraft proves that true luxury does not always require the biggest platform. Sometimes it is about getting the proportions exactly right. A cabin wide enough to feel human, a range long enough to be useful, an interior flexible enough to support real life, and a design language refined enough to feel timeless. But now we reach number one. And here, Airbus takes the same corporate jet philosophy and expands it into wide-body territory. More space, more range, more zones, and a private environment large enough to feel less like an apartment and more like a penthouse above the clouds. Number 1. Airbus ACJ330neo, the wide-body sky penthouse. At number 1, we arrive at the Airbus ACJ330neo. And this is where the idea of a private jet becomes something much bigger. Because the ACJ330neo is no longer just a spacious business aircraft. It is a wide-body private residence, a sky penthouse, a long-range flying mansion designed for people who want the space of a home, the privacy of a personal aircraft, and the range to cross the world without stopping. The ACJ330neo is based on the Airbus A330neo, a modern wide-body aircraft designed for long-haul travel. In airline service, aircraft in the A330 family carry hundreds of passengers across continents. But in Airbus corporate jet form, the entire aircraft is reimagined. Rows of seats are removed. The commercial cabin disappears, and the space becomes a blank canvas for private luxury. Airbus lists the ACJ330neo with up to 243 square meters of floor area. That is more than many apartments. It also offers up to 21 hours of non-stop flying and a range of up to 10,200 nautical miles. Those numbers completely change what the aircraft can become. A passenger does not simply sit through a flight, they can live through it, work, dine, rest, host, sleep, move between rooms, and arrive on the other side of the world without breaking the rhythm of their life. Step inside an ACJ330neo, and the first impression is scale. The cabin is wide enough for real rooms, not just zones, rooms. A main lounge can be designed with multiple seating groups. There can be proper walkways. Furniture can have space around it. Tables can sit naturally in the room. Screens, lighting, speakers, and climate systems can disappear into the architecture. Nothing has to feel squeezed. That is one of the most important differences between ordinary luxury and ultra-luxury. Ordinary luxury fills space with expensive things. Ultra-luxury can afford to leave space open. And open space inside an aircraft is one of the strongest signs of wealth. The forward section of an ACJ330neo might begin with a grand reception lounge. Passengers enter into an environment designed to feel calm and impressive at the same time. Soft lighting follows the curve of the ceiling. Custom wall panels hide airflow systems and technical equipment. Leather seating, sofas, polished tables, and decorative surfaces create an atmosphere closer to a private members club than an airplane. From there, the aircraft may transition into a dining area, and this is where the ACJ330neo becomes truly powerful. Because with a wide-body cabin, a dining room does not have to feel symbolic. It can feel real. A full table, comfortable chairs, formal place settings, a professional galley supporting serious meal service. Private chefs or onboard service teams can prepare meals for long-haul journeys. And because the aircraft can fly for up to 21 hours, dining becomes part of the natural rhythm of the trip. Dinner after takeoff, a quiet breakfast before landing, a private meal during the middle of the journey. This is not airline food. It is a dining experience in motion. The business areas on board can be equally impressive. A private office in an ACJ330neo can feel far more substantial than an office on a smaller jet. It might include a real desk, secure communication systems, video conferencing, storage, and a quiet atmosphere for work. A conference room can allow executives, advisors, or government officials to meet during the flight. For a global business leader or head of state, the aircraft becomes more than transportation. It becomes a mobile headquarters. This is why aircraft like the ACJ330neo exist. Not only for comfort, not only for status, but for continuity. The owner's life does not pause because the aircraft is in the air. Their work continues. Their meetings continue. Their meals continue. Their rest continues. Everything moves with them. Further back, the private zones can become increasingly residential. A master suite can include a large bed, wardrobe space, entertainment systems, soft lighting, and a private bathroom. Guest suites can be added for family members, advisors, or VIP guests. Separate spaces can be created for staff or security. Crew rest areas can support extremely long missions. And because the aircraft has the range to fly for up to 21 hours nonstop, these private spaces are not just decorative, they are necessary. On a 5-hour flight, a luxury seat may be enough. On a 20-hour mission, passengers need rooms. They need privacy. They need places to sleep. They need places to refresh themselves. They need a cabin that behaves more like a home than a vehicle. That is what makes the ACJ330neo so extraordinary. It is not simply a bigger private jet. It is a different way of thinking about air travel. Airbus also highlights comfort features, such as more than 6 temperature zones, hospital-grade filtration, and a cabin designed to be among the quietest in its class. That means different parts of the aircraft can feel different. A bedroom can be cooler for sleep. A lounge can be warmer for conversation. A dining space can be lit for atmosphere. A meeting room can be set for focus. The aircraft becomes a collection of environments rather than one single cabin. That is a major step in private aviation. Luxury is not only having beautiful rooms. Luxury is controlling how each room feels. The ACJ330neo also benefits from modern efficiency. Airbus says it offers 12% lower fuel burn compared with the previous generation. For an aircraft this size, that matters. Even ultra-wealthy owners care about range, operating efficiency, and mission flexibility. And in the modern luxury world, efficiency also affects image. The next generation of wealthy travelers often wants extreme capability without feeling tied to older, less efficient aircraft. That is one reason the ACJ330neo feels so relevant. It offers huge private space, global range, and a more modern platform. But beyond the numbers, the real appeal is emotional. Imagine boarding in the evening. The entrance feels like a private lounge. Dinner is served in a real dining area. Later, a meeting takes place in a quiet office. Guests relax in the main lounge. Someone watches a film in another section. The owner retreats to a private suite. And while all of this is happening, the aircraft is crossing oceans non-stop. That is the promise of the ACJ330neo. It turns distance into privacy. It turns time in the air into usable life. And it turns a long-haul flight into an experience that feels closer to living in a sky penthouse than traveling in an aircraft. That is why the Airbus ACJ330neo earns the #1 spot on this list. Because among these 5 aircraft, it offers the biggest leap from private jet to flying mansion. The Gulfstream G700 is fast, refined, and technologically advanced. The Bombardier Global 7500 is a masterpiece of long-range business jet comfort. The BBJ 737 MAX 8 transforms an airliner platform into a private residence. The ACJ320neo brings European sophistication and apartment-like space into the sky. But the ACJ330neo takes the concept further. More space, more range, more privacy, more room to live. And that is what makes it the ultimate aircraft in this top 5. A wide-body flying mansion built for those who want the world within reach, without ever leaving their private space. From the sleek Gulfstream G700 to the wide-body Airbus ACJ330neo, these 5 aircraft show how far private aviation has evolved. What used to be a faster way to travel has become something much more ambitious. Private lounges above the clouds, bedrooms crossing oceans, dining rooms at 40,000 feet, executive offices in motion, and wide-body sky penthouses designed for people who want complete privacy, comfort, and control. For most people, flying is something to get through, but for the ultra-wealthy, flying can become the most luxurious part of the journey. And maybe that is why these aircraft are so fascinating. They are not just machines. They are symbols of freedom, technology, design, and imagination. So now I want to know, if money were no object, which one would you choose? The Gulfstream G700? The Bombardier Global 7500? The Boeing Business Jet 737 MAX 8? The Airbus ACJ320neo? Or the wide-body Airbus ACJ330neo? Let us know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this journey inside the world's most unbelievable private aircraft, make sure to subscribe to Unbox the World, Because here we do not just show you luxury, we unbox the stories, secrets, and hidden worlds most people never get to see. Thanks for watching, and until next time, keep exploring, keep dreaming.